Hello everyone, welcome to the Lang Focus channel and my name is Paul. Today's topic is the Wolof language. I bet that many of you have never even heard of Wolof before, but it's an important language of West Africa, and you might even know a little bit of Wolof already. Wolof was one of the languages spoken among African slaves brought to the Americas, and a number of words of possible Wolof origin have entered English via African American vernacular English. Most of them were introduced into the mainstream through the popularity of jazz music. They include jive, dig, juke, as in jukebox, and hip. These words may seem a bit out of date now, but they were very important words in American culture in the 20th century. The word banana may also be of Wolof origin, though it entered English via Spanish or Portuguese. Wolof is spoken by at least 6 million native speakers, the vast majority of them in Senegal, where around 40% of the population speaks it as a native language. But Wolof is also used as a lingua franca throughout much of Senegal. So, including second language speakers, around 80% of the population can speak it. And I've seen estimates as high as 90%. The official language of Senegal is French, not Wolof, but Wolof is the most widely spoken language. It's also spoken by around 20% of the people in Gambia, including more than half of the people in the capital city, Banjul, as well as around 7% of the people of Mauritania. It's a member of the Senegambian branch of the Niger-Congo language family, which is also known as the Northern Atlantic branch. The name Wolof means people of Lof, an area in present-day Senegal where the Jolof Empire, also known as the Wolof Empire, was established at the end of the 14th century. It's the name of the Wolof ethnic group as well as their language. Because most Wolof people converted to Islam in recent centuries, and because of the presence of Arab traders in the region, Wolof contains some Arabic influence. Some Arabic loanwords include
Salam alaikum,
the traditional Islamic greeting, some of the days of the week,
Talata,
Tuesday, from Arabic al-Thalatha,
Al-Arba,
Wednesday, from Arabic al-Arbi'a,
Al-Khamis,
Thursday, from Arabic al-Khamis, and
Ajuma,
Friday, from Arabic al-Jum'a,
Waqtu,
time or hour. This is from Arabic waqt or waqtu, which includes the Arabic nominative case ending u.
Lab,
Father, from al-ab.
Nat,
People, from nas.
Alfia,
Health, from al-afiyah.
Dar,
Pure, from tahir.
Lika,
Food, from al-akl.
Sukh,
Work, from shughul. There has also been French influence on Wolof, and that is because Senegal is a former French colony. The French established trading outposts there beginning in the 17th century, and fully conquered Senegal during the 18th century. It remained a French colonial territory until 1960. The Dakar variety of Wolof has the largest amount of French influence. The rural varieties tend to be much more conservative. We'll see some examples of French loanwords later. Some features of Wolof. The Senegambian languages, including Wolof, do not have tones. This sets them apart from most of the Niger-Congo language family. Like other languages in its family, Wolof contains pre-nasalized consonants. These are combinations of nasal sounds and stops, which function as individual consonants. Like most Niger-Congo languages, Wolof has a system of noun classes, categories of different types of nouns that are represented by specific inflections. But Wolof is unique in that the noun itself is not inflected, but rather it's typically the definite article that is inflected. For example, the shirt,
Simisbi,
the cat,
Musmi,
the woman,
Igengi,
the earth.
Sufsi,
The noun class inflection can be seen in the first consonant of the definite article. There are 10 noun classes, including 2 plural classes, though I understand that in urban Wolof, B has replaced the others to a large extent. Wolof has no separate grammatical category of adjectives. Instead, there's a category of verbs called stative verbs, which indicate states, conditions, feelings, etc. These are used instead of adjectives. Wolof has 3 sets of personal pronouns: independent pronouns, object pronouns, and subject pronouns. Independent pronouns are used for emphasis and to answer questions, similar to the disjunctive pronouns in French. Independent pronouns and object pronouns have fixed forms, but subject pronouns have many different forms. In the Wolof verb system, the verb itself is not conjugated, but rather the subject pronoun is inflected instead. The subject pronouns indicate not only person and number, but can also indicate time, normally aspect rather than tense, as well as focus. It can be verb focus, object focus, or subject focus. There are three types of verbs in Wolof: action verbs, identity verbs, and stative verbs, which we mentioned before. Identity verbs are verbs that give basic information about you and your background, such as
Tut.
to be named,
Yoge.
to come from,
You do.
to be born, and so on. These three types of verbs are important because they're used in different verbal constructions, different conjugations, if you will. Alright, let's jump right into some sentences and see some of these features in action.
Nakanga tudu.
This sentence means, what's your name? Word for word it's how, you, singular, named. Nga is an object-focused pronoun. It's focusing our attention on the word naka, meaning how. So it's often used in asking or answering questions that identify the object or complement. This here is the second-person singular object-focused pronoun. To be clear, there's a full set of these object-focused pronouns for the various persons and numbers. These are subject pronouns, but they have the added function of telling us to focus on or emphasize the object. This is one set of subject pronouns with that specific function, but there are numerous other sets of subject pronouns with different functions. Here, tud is the identity verb meaning to be from. Note that this question is often contracted to
No tudu.
with no being a contraction of naka nga. But I gave you the full form to show how the underlying sentence is constructed. An answer might be
Gora la tudu.
word for word it's Gora, that's a name, I, named. In this reply, la is the first person singular object-focused pronoun. One thing to note is that Wolof typically follows an SVO word order, but in an object-focused sentence with a verb, it's OSV. To give a greater sense of the object focus, maybe in English we could translate this as, it is Gora that I am called. Here's another sentence with object focus.
Samaligay labuk.
This means I love my job, or it is my job that I love. Maybe you'd say this in response to a question asking what you love about your life. Now let's make this a subject-focused sentence.
Mabek samaligay.
This means I love my job, with the emphasis on the subject I. Maybe you'd say this if someone asks who loves their job, overhearing your conversation. Now let's make this a verb-focused sentence.
Damabek samaligay.
This means I love my job, with the emphasis on love. Maybe you say this in response to someone asking if you dislike your job. Notice again that in the object-focused sentence, the object comes at the beginning. Also, remember that these are subject pronouns, which include the additional meaning of focus. These ones here are only the first-person singular forms, which are part of wider sets of pronouns. This form here indicates verb focus for action verbs, but when it's a stative verb that functions like an adjective, then this form draws our attention to a state or condition.
Dafatang.
It's hot. Here, tung is a stative verb, meaning to be hot. This construction is often used to explain a reason or cause. Let's look at another sentence.
Nyungindeki.
This means they're having breakfast. This sentence contains a different kind of pronoun called a presentative pronoun. These pronouns don't have any focus, but rather indicate an aspect of time. They tell us that some action or condition is currently true. This part here, ngi, on its own means here, like the action or condition you can see right in front of you. With an action verb, this particle e is added to the end of the pronoun, which makes it like the present continuous in English. But with an identity verb, it tells us something about someone's current identity, even if that part of the person's identity stems from an occurrence in the past.
Mangindek pari.
I live in Paris.
Mangin makedakar.
I grew up in Dakar. Notice that with identity verbs, the e affix is missing from the pronoun, because your identity is not a present continuous action, it's your current state. It's who you are. If you think about the way these presentative pronouns are used with identity verbs, you can see that they don't indicate tense, but rather aspect. They show that a condition is ongoing, even if it was caused by a past action. Another sentence.
Lek nanyo latanginyo.
This means we ate before you arrived. Word for word it's eat, we, perfective, before you arrive. This verb, lekka, is an action verb. It's related to the word lika, meaning food, which derives from an Arabic word, as we saw before. This pronoun, nanyu, is an enunciative pronoun or a perfective pronoun, which shows completion of the action. This is often used when the simple past or past perfect would be used in English. I should point out that while Wolof is generally SVO, in perfective sentences the verb comes at the beginning. So this is VSO. The pronoun nga is a neutral pronoun that contains no time or focus element. In a clause with lata, meaning before, there is no aspect or tense. These neutral pronouns are also used a lot in speech, in which case tense and aspect are understood from context. One thing that might be confusing here is that nga is the same as the second person singular object focus pronoun, which we saw before. I probably should have used a different one of the neutral pronouns in this sentence to avoid that confusion. When the perfective is used with a state of verb, it doesn't indicate a past state, it indicates a present state. The perfective indicates that the development of that state is completed.
Am na reservasyon ba pare?
This sentence means I already have a reservation. Word for word it's have, I, perfective, reservation already. Note the French word réservation. Here you can see that a present state is expressed by the perfective form. Now if we want to express a past state using a stative verb, we can add a special past marker.
Amun na reservasyon ba pare?
This means I already had a reservation, rather than have a reservation. Another sentence.
Elog dinanu den marsebi.
This means tomorrow we'll go to the market. Word for word it's tomorrow, we, imperfect, go, market, the. In this sentence, we see a different type of subject pronoun that indicates future. Well, to be precise, it's the imperfective and indicates that an action has not been completed yet. Here we have the word for market, which comes from the French word marché, and it's followed by the definite article for its noun class, this one starting with a B. The imperfective pronouns do not always express future. If we add to them the suffix e, which expresses continuous action, then the imperfective pronouns indicate a habitual action, which would be expressed with the simple present tense in English.
Tinanui den marsebi bezbunek.
This means we go to the market every day. Here we see an imperfective pronoun with the prefix e, which makes this a habitual action, like we go, rather than a future action, like we will go. In the phrase bezbunek, bez means day, and bunek means each or every. Let's look at one last sentence.
Khaleyi neloh nanyu. Nyungi waktang.
This means the children aren't sleeping, they're chatting. Word for word it's children, the, sleep, negative, they, continuous, chat. This sentence is about actions that are in progress right now. So here we see the presentative pronoun,
Nyungi.
which indicates ongoing action, that they are chatting right now. Closer to the beginning of the sentence, we have this verb, nelau, which means sleep, with a negative suffix but no presentative pronoun. This negative suffix indicates person and number, third person plural, but it doesn't contain any information about time or focus. It's simply negative. This is the normal way of expressing the negative for all types of verb constructions. So the time and focus elements are understood from context. Here at the beginning, we see the phrase khaleyi, which means the children. Yi is a definite article for plural nouns. There's one more definite article for plural nouns, ni, but that one is quite limited in use. These plural articles are 2 of the 10 definite articles that are marked for noun class. One last thing to note is the word wachtan. The root of this word is wach, which means to speak, and the suffix tan changes the meaning to chat, and it can also be a noun meaning conversation or chat. But there are numerous other words built from this root. There is
Wachlu.
meaning to have someone speak, the causative form,
Wachal.
which means to haggle or to bargain,
Wachat.
which means to repeat or restate, and
Wachtu.
which means to talk to yourself. And there's also a homonym of this word, meaning time or hour, which comes from the Arabic word waqtu. As you can see, Wolof is a very interesting language, and one which might work quite differently from your native language or any other language that you've studied before. Perhaps its standout feature is its verbal system, which makes extensive use of inflected pronouns, which are used together with largely unchangeable verbs to create a rich system of expression. In this video, we merely scratched the surface. There are many more constructions that express different times, aspects, and moods. And there are many additional elements of the language that are beyond the scope of this video. But hopefully it sparked your interest and taught you something new. The question of the day. To native speakers of Wolof, if there are any of you watching, what differences do you notice between urban Wolof, especially that of Dakar, and rural Wolof? Are they major differences? And to anyone who has visited Senegal or another Wolof-speaking area, did you learn any Wolof? If so, what was your experience? If not, were you able to get around using French or English? Be sure to follow Lang Focus on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And once again, thank you to all of my wonderful Patreon supporters, especially these ones right here on the screen. They are my top tier Patreon supporters, so many, many, many thanks to them as always. And to you, thank you for watching and have a nice day.